Erev Tov, everyone. In this week's parsha, the Torah teaches us that when Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to the Jewish people after Pharaoh had hardened the decrees against them, so it says, "V'lo shomu al Moshe." The Jewish people were unwilling to hear what Moshe had to say. And the Torah says two reasons. Mekotzer ruach u'me'avodah kosher. So what's kotzer ruach and what's avodah kosher? The simple explanation, literal translation, is that someone works hard physically, one exerts oneself physically, so then one is short of breath. So kotzer ruach means they were short of breath because of the fact that they had to run all over Egypt to find straw and then run back and make the bricks. And mavoda kosher, and it was hard work, hard labor. And the Mefarshim explained that hard labor meant that they had no satisfaction from the labor that they did. The Egyptians purposely, if someone was a good plumber, so they made him an electrician, much like what we have in this country. So they didn't say the avodah was kosher, because sometimes Shlomo Melech says in Mishnah, Mesuka Shnas Hoved, the laborer's sleep is sweet because he feels that he accomplished something. He repaired, he created, he did something. But someone that works at a task that does not in any way reflect a positive contribution. So the Mefarshim point out, says that they built Pishom and Ramses. So the Mefarshim say that was when they were not slaves. When they were not slaves, it was an Egyptian project to build Pishom and Ramses. When they were slaves, they did not have that satisfaction. So it's kotzer ruach and avodah kosher. But the Mefarshim all, without exception, say that that's only a superficial way of looking at it. And most Mefarshim therefore say kotzer ruach is shortness of spirit, not shortness of breath. They didn't have the imagination to think that they were going to get out, that somehow it would get it better. And the mentality of servants, you see from the American Civil War, that after the war was over and slavery was officially canceled, the vast majority of slaves remained with their masters, even though the conditions may have been a little better, but it remained a type of slavery because they didn't have the imagination to think what it would be when they weren't a slave. And Slavery induces kotzer ruach because an independent person has to produce for himself, for his family, for the society. A slave, it's not his responsibility. The master has to feed him. That's why Chazal said that kol mi shekone eved le'atzmo, kone odon le'atzmo. A person that acquires slaves really acquires masters because he's got to take care of them. I know people that had animals either as pets. Well, pets, let's leave it as pets. You're a slave to the pet. When the pet wants to go out, you got to go out. It doesn't make a difference what the weather is or how busy you are. Because anything that is entrusted to your care is a form of slavery. It's the same thing is true of family. Everything imposes upon us. The truly free person is very rare. And because of that, therefore, the kotzer ruach here was, they didn't imagine that they ever could be free, and they didn't want to be free. It was too great a change. If you're 80 years in slavery, and then tomorrow they tell you you're free. So today we have fancy names for it, post-traumatic, etc. We're going to see now Rachmana litzlan with the shvuyim. Nobody comes back normal. The definition of normal has changed. So they didn't listen to Moshe because of the fact that they had kotzer ruach. They didn't have the imagination. Moshe tells them, we're going to worship at Har Sinai, we're going to get the Torah, we're going to Eretz Yisrael, we're going to conquer 7 nations. Well, Moshe, you're nuts. What are you talking about? And what's avodah kosher? So again, avodah kosher is the nature of people, especially of people who are slaves or prisoners, to be lazy. Every type of work is kosher. We see that when we raise children. You know, make your bed. Nobody likes that. So every form of work was kosher. And now Moshe is going to give them, he promises them a Torah, and promises them all the mitzvahs. He promises them that they're going to have to go to war. Well, who wants that? He should have promised them a condo in Palm Beach, and that's it. So Shomel Moshe. There's a second stream completely in the Meforshim that the Abarbanel and others discuss. Lo Shomel Moshe mikotzer ruach. So he says kotzer rucho shel Moshe. Moshe didn't believe. If you don't believe what you're selling, you can't sell it. The old bad sarcastic joke, which unfortunately has some truth to it, is that two people were leaving a rabbinic convention, and one turned and he said, "But Yankel, what if there is a God?" Well, that's the problem. You have to believe yourself before you can communicate it to others. That's true in the political world, in the diplomatic world, in the commercial world. You have to believe in your project. And you will know that any project that you will advance, there'll be 100 people that will tell you, no, it's not practical, it's not necessary, it'll never be successful. The naysayers always abound. So Moshe Mikotza Ruach, Moshe didn't believe yet. Moshe was not fully convinced. That's the whole parsha there of Vayera. Chaval al li'avdim v'lo mishtachim. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov believed, and you doubt. Loma lo hitzalta. How come you didn't save them by now? And the avodah kosher is also Moshe. It's a hard job to run the Jewish people. A very hard job. And even if you break it down into smaller groups, still a hard job. Still avodah kosher. So Moshe was unable to convince himself. That begins in last week's parsha when he said, "Shlach no bi'at tishlach." Send someone else. Don't send me. I'm not the man. And Moshe repeats it here. Moshe says, "A kal v'chomer. Hein b'nei Yisrael lo shomu elai." I can't get the Jewish people to listen to me. Ve'ech yishmeini Paro. How will Paro listen to me? If you don't believe that Paro is going to listen to you, it's useless to go to him. It will not have the force and conviction necessary to persuade someone. And that Perush explains a lot as to the development of Moshe. Moshe, at the end of his life, sees himself as the Eved Hashem. He has no doubts as to his role. But it takes time and events for Moshe to develop into that. So that's the idea that the Meforshim say here. When we hear V'lo shomu el Moshe, there are many reasons why. Reasons for the people, but reasons for Moshe as well. And the Rebbeinu Shalom answers him and says, Ein lo yaminu li, they won't believe me. God says, Ein ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim, they will eventually, they'll believe. You won't believe at the end. So amin. When I tell you to do something and you don't do it. So all of that is included in this simple idea that the Pasuk mentions, Lo shomu el Moshe mikotze ruach ma'avoda kosher. Rabbi Hanania ben Akash Omer, Otza HaKadosh Baruch Hu Zakos Yisrael, Lefichach Hir B'lahem Torah Mitzvot, Shenema, I don't know if I've heard some answer, Ko Yagdil Torah B'yad.